Okay, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to 2021. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and look. You have your flag, Lucy? There you go. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome Dr. Doug Shook, our new superintendent, for his first meeting. He's been here about 8 days so far, and I hope that he's finding the new job enjoyable and will be with us tonight for the first time. So welcome, Doug.
Thank you very much.
The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, please say aye or wave your hands. Aye.
Aye.
Next is time for public comment. Ken, do we have anybody?
Nope, no callers at this time.
Great. The next item is the Coggin-Shuck reporters, and whoever wants to start.
Good evening, Dr. Shook. My name is Jaden Astle, and I am with Noel Sorensen and Katie Holbert. As seniors of Coggin-Shuck, we wanted to welcome you to our district by giving you a sense of what our lifestyle is like and how strong our sense of community and belonging is, and how that sets us apart from other institutions. To start, we here in Middlefield and Durham have a lot of traditions set in place to reinforce our community, both among students and townsfolk. We have our annual crafts fair, which is specific fundraiser for our music department. It allows for people from all over the town to come and support our musical endeavors, as well as for people to help grow their businesses and make their products known. We also, of course, have the Durham Fair, which is known as the largest volunteer-based fair in New England. Everything including planning, construction, and labor is all done by volunteer work, both from the town and from all of our schools in the district. The fair provides an effective medium for the town to come together and celebrate its hard work and success as a group. We also have annual parades, in-school events such as our homecoming week, and so much more. We hope you'll come to appreciate everything our community accomplishes, as well as recognize their true passion and love for our town.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie Hurlbert. I am the president of our chapter of the National Honor Society. I play the tenor saxophone in all things band related, and I'm also a member of our indoor and outdoor track teams. I've lived in Durham since I was 4 years old. Throughout that time, I have witnessed firsthand how a small community like ours can band together to lift up individuals who are going through hard times. One of the most outstanding examples of what our community is capable of started in March. Mr. Fisher, band director extraordinaire at the high school, was in an accident that landed him in the hospital for a long time. Within 24 hours, a GoFundMe page was started to support him and his family on the long road to recovery ahead of them. Our community ended up raising over $50,000, twice the amount that was set as the goal. A meal train was also organized, so all through the summer months, the Fishers rarely had to worry about what they were going to have for dinner. The fact that a community as small as ours, with just over 1,000 students in the entire district, rallied around the Fishers shows just how powerful a small community like ours can be. I'm so grateful to have been raised in a community where our core ethical values are practiced by both students and their families.
Hi, I'm Noel Sorensen. I again just want to say welcome to our district. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what makes growing up in such a small district so amazing. You start your academic journey here in one of two elementary schools, Contemporary in Brewster or ID in John Lyman. Although you may begin split from half your graduating class, as you advance, you're slowly brought together. So when you enter high school, you're in a class size of about 125 people with everyone you've ever grown up with. Having such small class sizes in general is nice because you actually get to know all your classmates. This is also awesome when it comes to teachers. Being smaller allows the teachers to actually get to know their students individually, becoming a part of their lives and futures, growing to care for each and every one of us. They'll come cheer us on at events after school hours like our sports games and concerts, supporting our success in and outside of the classroom. Growing up in a small district has always been a plus for me. I love the community that it forms, as well as the people that make it up. It is truly special, so I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. So I just want to say welcome one last time to our little district. We're very happy to have you.
Chairman Moore, can I thank them? I don't know, it's not my time to speak, but Jade and Katie Noel, thank you very much for that nice welcome. I had expected you were going to report on what was going on at the high school, but what a nice surprise, and thank you for making me feel welcome. I'm going to say some more things about how everyone's made me feel welcome, but I'm guessing you're not going to stay on for the entire meeting, so just know that what you have shared is a reflection of what I've seen in the 8 days that I've been here, and it's made me even more energized to be here and be part of this community. And that will also go for my wife, Denise, who drove up here from Virginia today and is very tired. I don't know if she's watching or not, but happy to be here and happy to have my wife and our dog Peanut with me now. That I'll get to see for the first time tonight in about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug. Brian, any comments?
The only thing I wanted to say, Doug, when I sit with this group of students, we usually do cover the events going on at the high school and after school activities. And they wanted to shift the speech in their comments to you this week. They thought it was important to welcome you into our district, knowing the shift that you're also making in your life, and they appreciated that. So that's what they wanted to do, and it was their idea, and they're just amazing. So
I'm honored and flattered. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys. Any other comments for the students? Good night and good luck this year. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the December 9th meeting. Do you have a motion to approve? Victor, have a second?
Second.
Any changes or comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The next item is the Board of Education special session meeting on December 16th. We have a motion that indicates that Christine was there. She was not there. So
Motion to approve.
move to,
Motion to approve with that change.
all right, we have a second.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The next
I'll
board meeting.
abstain.
I'll abstain as well.
Thank you. The next board meeting is February 10th at 7 o'clock. Now it's time for item 7, COVID update, COVID response update, and Doug, that's you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Want to make sure I turn my mute button. Okay, great. So I'm going to share on a few different areas related to COVID. And then I'm going to pause after each of the major sections to see if you all have questions. If I can't answer them, I'll try to get you an answer. But I might be able to answer them, and let's just see where it takes us. So the areas I'm going to cover is, first of all, my overall impressions from being here to your COVID response. Then I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about updates I've received from the State Department of Health and other agencies that kind of keep us informed about COVID. Then we're going to talk about winter sports. And Brian is here, and he's going to tag team with me on that. And then we're going to talk about some procedural things. One is the early release Wednesday topic, which I'm told we need to come back to because it had a sunset of the end of January. And also one of your policies where a couple of our principals have asked for a little bit of a waiver of those policies, which I think you'll see the sense in. But when we get to that section, we can talk about that. So let me start with the overall impressions. I have to say, I've been extremely impressed with what I've seen from the teachers, from the families, from the young learners. from obviously the work of Dr. Serena, my predecessor, the leadership team, our principals, our administrators, and you all as a board. I can only report what I see and what I hear, and so that's all I'm going to report. But what I see and hear are that health and safety protocols are being taken very seriously, and I can also report that learning is happening, and there's a serious commitment to learning. And even though that learning is more challenging in this environment, it's happening. I also have observed and been very impressed with how accommodating the district has been to families of children who, for whatever reason, feel like they can't or shouldn't be in school, who are learning remotely, or those who are quarantined because of testing positive or some type of exposure. I've also been very impressed with the contact tracing protocols and the quarantine protocols that are strictly followed. And the reason I mention all this, even though you all may already know this because you've been here, for someone to see this with fresh eyes, it's very impressive. And I feel you all should be very proud of what you've done. And I'm very proud to be a part of it. And I say that in the context that if you look across Connecticut and if you look across the United States, your commitment to in-person learning, although not unique, let's just say it's not happening everywhere. And that takes that combined commitment from everyone. So kudos to the district and to all of you for getting us this far amidst these circumstances. So let me jump now into the kind of the health data. The first thing I would say is in our immediate health district, where we get our briefings from, there is some positive news. There were actually fewer cases reported in the month of December than there were in the month of November. And my understanding is that is the first month-over-month decrease since July. And so the hope is, no one knows this for sure, but the hope is that the second surge peak that everyone anticipated to happen may have already happened. Now, I think it's important to put into context a decrease of a number that's already high is still a high number. And so I think we all need to be, aware of that. A few things that I think are on everyone's minds that we've addressed with some of our staff and will continue to address, and it's in the news. So you may have heard all this, but I think it bears repeating in this context. One is this, what is technically known as the V117 strain. It's more commonly known as the UK variant of COVID because of the predominance of it in the United Kingdom. You may or may not know that there are 2 confirmed cases in Connecticut, and as of my last update, which was 2 days ago, we were one of only 8 states that had confirmed cases. What we've been told about this UK variant is that the symptoms are virtually identical, and it's certainly no more deadly or harmful than the typical case that we've been dealing with. However, it is about 1.5 times at least more transmissible. And for that reason, it's even more important for us to stay vigilant with the health and safety protocols that we already have in place, because those will also prevent its transmission. Now, from what I'm told, the Center for Disease Control expects this UK variant to really be widespread in the United States by about the month of March, they're projecting. And I guess if there is a silver lining in all of this is that, and this is a question we often get, is that the vaccines that have been developed that are now being distributed are effective also in addressing this UK variant. And speaking of vaccines, I think that's the other topic that's on a lot of people's minds. And I just got off a call with the state not an hour ago, so I think what I'm sharing is probably the most up-to-date. So let me just review some things again that are out there, but I think it's important to understand as it pertains to us as a school district. The first is that there are 3 general priority groups labeled 1A, 1B, and 1C, which is how the state is managing the limited number of vaccines that are currently available and that will be available in the future. And my understanding is after we get through those groups, at that point, the vaccine will be then available to anybody who is not in one of those 3 groups. So the 1A vaccination already started, and you may have heard that, you know, this is reserved for people in the healthcare industry and others who are in the critical areas, kind of on the front line of dealing with the healthcare side of COVID. So we only have a few employees that fell into that category, and those are our school nurses. And I'm happy to report that several of our nurses have already been vaccinated, and those that haven't are scheduled to complete that this week. And so that's really good news because they're seeing a lot of children that may present with symptoms and things of that nature. The next group, which is a much larger group, is the 1B group. And it's our understanding that all of our teachers and likely all of our employees will be included in the state's 1B group. The reason I say it's my understanding or it's presumed is that tomorrow Governor Lamont is planned to come out with his official announcement and a press release that will officially outline all of these groups. And this is really important for us to understand. So the original 1B group up until I think 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, was including any of our citizens age 75 and above, and also frontline essential workers. And that would generally include teachers and others. In the state of Connecticut, that is approximately 800,000 individuals. And why that's important is that the state is receiving roughly 40,000-ish vaccines a week, and that's at this point what they expect to receive. So if you do the math on that, if we got 40,000 a week and all 800,000 got vaccinated, by my math, that puts us right around the first week of June, just in that 1B group. However, there was an advisory group that met, I believe, as recently as yesterday, and based on some changing federal guidelines, are now recommending other groups be added into the 1B group. And you may have heard those now include individuals that are 65 and above, and also people of any age that may have a chronic health condition that makes them more susceptible to the more deadly effects of COVID. And my understanding is that there's about 700,000 people additional that would be in that group. So again, nothing will be official till tomorrow, but that was what's being recommended to the governor. So now we take the first 800,000 and we add the 700,000. Now we're at 1.5 million. And so I guess my overall message to you all, and what we're going to be communicating to our employees, is that yes, the vaccines are here and they appear to be effective. And yes, there is a plan for all of us to be vaccinated, but we've got to be patient about this process. And my understanding is that the phase 1B is set to begin next Monday. And at the very beginning of it, citizens that are 75 and older are going to be in the very first group that are going to have the availability in the 1B group. So if there's anybody watching, if there's anybody on the board that perhaps fits that age demographic, we would encourage you to go out and get vaccinated, so we can all feel safe about your situation. So again, we'll be communicating this information to our employees later this week and kind of continuously, because it is something that I'm hearing a lot and other staff are reporting in our interactions with them. So let me pause here. I know we have people on our board that know a lot more about this than I certainly do. So if there's any questions or any additional thoughts, I'll stop and pause there before I move on.
I'll just chime in really quick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I think that this probably has already been thought about, but I'll just express. So I'm in healthcare. I did get the vaccine, and what we've been seeing is that some people are having a little bit of a reaction and some are not. But at least where I work, we we were asked to we had to stagger when we received the vaccine. So I don't know, how much control, and maybe the principals or the nurses can work on that, but I just think it would be obviously nice if it was able to be staggered, so we didn't all of a sudden have half of our staff out at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Missy-
it obviously is depending on the person, and I'll stop there. So,
Yeah, that's a really good
I'm
point.
sure
and
you
that-
already are on top of that, but
No, I don't want to say we're on top of it. I would say it's part of our discussions with the health department. I think the challenge, from my understanding, is we're uploading all of our employees into this state priority database, and those employees will receive kind of individual contacts, and they will be on their own to seek out a provider that's convenient to them for work or for where they live, and also the date. So I really, other than us kind of asking them to consider that, this is not like flu shots that we could potentially administer in one of our clinics or something like that. And so the scenario that you described is a real challenge that we're going to have to kind of consider, given that that's the case. What I will say is, from what I have heard, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we had a similar, the hospital I worked for, we got an email through VAMS, which is the big vaccination administration, I don't know what it's called, and what we had to do was, once we got that email, we had to contact our supervisor, and then we were told, yes, you can have it on this day, or no, you cannot. So I know that there's a lot of people, but what happens is, once you receive that email, if it's through the same agency that we did, it's connected with the CDC. And then, you put in your zip code and it tells you these are the places you can get vaccinated. I work at Middlesex, so I got vaccinated at Middlesex, but there's a variety of times and dates that are available. So I don't know. But I mean, obviously if it's just a sore arm, fine. But if you have a fever, you obviously aren't going to be able to report to work. And, I just would hate to see a whole bunch of kids have to stay home because all of our teachers got vaccinated on the same day. That's it.
Well, I think it's a really good point, and I'll share that with our team, and we'll see if there's a way that we can try to coordinate some of that. I just don't know to what extent we'll be able to control that, and I think our number one goal is to make sure everyone gets vaccinated. But you raise a really good point. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask Andrew, it's sort of relevant to what we think the level of protection for our staff will be in 4 months. Is there any secret information which hasn't reached the press about the expected efficacy of the current vaccines, the RNA vaccines, if the second dose is delayed substantially?
I want to say that the first dose was an 80%, and then it got you over the 90% range with the second dose. But I don't think there's great evidence to really support that. I think that's why, though, the incoming administration was considering giving out first doses into a larger group, and then in delaying some of the second line doses. But I don't think that there's really other evidence other than what came out of the initial trials for that stuff. The other thing I would say, just because I do worry about what the public in the meeting would hear, is that so these vaccines are incredibly safe. I want to just message that because I know that there's been a lot of concerns. Yale has been really rigorously monitoring the kind of reactions that people have and everything else. And out of at the last time I heard, there was 17,000, I think, vaccines that had been administered within the Yale system, and there was only 3 people that had minor reactions. So yeah, your arm may be sore a little bit, and you may feel like a little fluish. I think we had some people describing a little bit of headaches, but we're not, when we say a reaction, it's not. You're not having some type of bad reaction to the vaccine or anything else for the most part. Those numbers are incredibly low. I mean, we're talking, very, 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 very small percentages. So I guess my message would be, please get the vaccine.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that segment? Okay, hearing none, next we want to shift to winter sports, which I know is important to a lot of people out there. Again, I'm still new, I'm still learning things, but I understand there's this group, CIAC, which is the group that governs sports in our schools. And they're actually, like the governor, they're actually meeting tomorrow to come out with their official announcement about winter sports. But you may have seen some of their information was reported in the press earlier this week. And our understanding is that what they've already kind of put out there, or what is out there, is really what is going to happen tomorrow. So this is what we understand is going to be formally approved tomorrow, that they're going to be giving permission for winter sports practices to start as early as next Tuesday, the 19th of January. And they're going to allow winter sports competitions to begin as early as the 1st of February. Now, I say they're giving permission, and I say as early, because clearly the ultimate decision is vested with us as local districts, and to an extent is also somewhat dependent on the other schools that we compete against on a regular basis, because, you know, if we're the only one playing, then we have no competition and really no reason to have a season. And so what I thought would be helpful is Brian is here, and I'd like him to share the plan that he's developed with Todd and with others that we feel like strikes a good balance between supporting athletics where we feel we can do that safely, but also kind of being conscious of the other factors that are in play. So Brian, you want to go ahead and share with the board what it is that you think we should be doing here?
Sure. So what's been released on the media outlets, numerous media outlets, is basically the CIAC shared their draft on Monday with us of the guidelines that have been approved by the DPH for winter sports. And their meeting tomorrow, as Dr. Shook shared, is basically to finalize that plan and finalize the individual sports accommodations that we need to make for each sport that we have out there. Based on what we know right now, not all of our sports have been approved. So what has been approved at this point has been basketball, spirit cheerleading, which is cheering at games, and our co-ops with hockey, swimming, and our team of one with gymnastics. And those are the sports that the CIAC plans on starting on January 19th. The indoor track season has been postponed, but there have been no further details with regard to that. We're hoping for some more details after tomorrow's meeting. And our competitive cheer season has officially been canceled. With the approval of this plan by the DPH, Todd Petronio, myself, Beth Malillo have met, and we basically have put in additional protocols and procedures, safety protocols and procedures for each individual sport that will be running or could possibly be running, which is the indoor track, to keep our student athletes and our coaches as safe as possible. So we're prepared moving forward with a very detailed plan off of the information we have now within the draft. But we're kind of in a holding pattern, knowing that we don't know what the outcomes of the CIAC meeting is going to be tomorrow. And if the CIAC or the DPH makes some modifications to the current guidelines that are out there, we're going to have to adjust that safety protocol and procedure plan that we have in place for our student athletes and our programs. So that's kind of where we are. I can go a little deeper into some examples of some of the safety protocols that we have kind of brainstormed and have out there, and kind of looking and dotting our I's and crossing our T's with each sport with the information we have now. but it's also a plan that Dr. Shook could share with you guys later on after it's complete and we have more information from the CIAC tomorrow.
Thank you, Brian. So board members, do you have any questions for Brian or for me about what we've shared?
All right, go ahead, Miss.
Sorry. I have some concerns about the co-op, and I had these same concerns when we were back in the summer talking about football. I personally support sports. However, I just don't see, how many people are in our co-op for hockey, Brian? How many schools?
How many high schools? I believe
No, I mean
there's-
like that join our team. Isn't there 3 or 4 schools that come together to play together?
I believe there's 3, yeah. 3 schools that come together.
So,
And it's girls hockey and not, we don't have a co-op for boys hockey.
you don't? Not anymore?
No, we don't. The boys hockey, the numbers weren't aligned, so we couldn't do a co-op for boys hockey. So it's just,
Okay.
it's just girls hockey.
Yeah, but regardless, hockey in general, I feel like is a high impact sport. And I know that when the youth hockey was still going, I don't think it's going right now, that there was a high rate of transmission within those teams. And I just feel like bringing, 3 schools together, you're now impacting a group of students that then could be impacting our entire just school. If one, child on that team, whether it be from our school, we're impacting the other schools and they're impacting us. I personally have a problem with that.
If I could follow up on that, first of all, I'd like to remark that I'm flabbergasted that we're actually beginning a sports season without having a war between CIAC and the DPH. And pleased, do you remember what it was like in the fall? So that's nice. The only member of my family who has gotten COVID is a nephew who's a hockey player. And I remember seeing, and I didn't copy to everybody because I didn't think much about it, but there is an active research community trying to figure out why the rate of transmission of COVID is so much higher in hockey teams than it is in other indoor sports. Are you familiar with any of that, Andrew?
I had seen that was the evidence that was coming out too, and that was the reason why the youth sports for the hockey had been shut down. It's because of the rate of transmission in the sports.
Well, my nephews in Pennsylvania, they corporately don't believe in COVID, but I think perhaps we should, and recognize that the environment of a hockey rink with a cold layer of air near the surface, which is moisturized, is ideal for transmitting the COVID virus aerosol. So I would urge you all to think about that. That is not the same as other indoor sports.
I don't know if anyone would have this answer, and I don't know if our athletic director would know this either, but with the difference between boys hockey and girls hockey, I don't know if there's a difference either based on the rules and regulations that they have in place. I just don't know enough about it, but we might be able to get you some more information on that.
I'd be concerned about the rink environment, the cold surface rink environment, increasing the rate of transmission.
I actually found that to be counterintuitive because in hockey, they're wearing face masks. They have to. They're not allowed on the ice without it. And then you look at basketball where they're not required to wear it. So it almost seems like hockey's got a built-in PPE that's above and beyond.
Well,
So
Bob,
I'm kind of curious why basketball is being allowed and hockey not.
Bob, you're thinking about droplet transmission, which turns out to be probably less important than aerosol transmission. And the mask hockey players don't reduce the transmission of aerosol.
And I just want to clarify one thing. All sports that occur within our gym masks are required the entire time while those sports are being played, even in the games.
So that's part of the resolution from, we believe, from the Department of Public Health and from SEAC that because they're indoor sports and because there's been plenty of studies now that the masks don't really do any harm to the athletes. This is just an accommodation that they're all going to have to agree to if they want to play the sport.
And it's similar to what we had in volleyball in the fall. So.
I mean, I do also have some concerns about the basketball. It's a bit different than the volleyball because at least in volleyball, they're on two different sides of the nets. And I mean, yes, you know, those students are always practicing together, even with masks, but then you're bringing a whole nother cohort of kids from another school and they're on top of each other and, you know, sweating on each, I don't know. It's, I have some concerns. I don't want to be a bad guy, but I do have some concerns. And also for the indoor sports, what is the rule about spectators? So
at this time, the spectator rule, what it was in the fall, it was 25 people at the time, and so we were basically able to have our two volleyball teams, the teams that were playing against each other, the officials, the scorekeeper, and that was it. It was closed to all spectators. We're at this time uncertain of exactly what that is. We're hoping to find more information with regard to spectators out tomorrow, but we would follow the similar guidelines that are in place. I do also know that some of the schools in the shoreline, we tried to align the best we could with attendance policies for indoor and outdoor games. And sometimes some schools and some districts kind of made a right turn and we made a left turn. Most of us stuck together with home parents at spectator events outdoors, but some did allow visitors into their sites, but we did not. We stuck with home only, but not for volleyball. There was no one allowed in our gym.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're not allowing volunteers into our school, I would rather that there not be spectators if they're going to go through with, you know, with having it. I had something else to say, but I got sidetracked. I was putting my daughter to bed. Sorry, if I think of it, I'll come back.
It's funny you're putting her to bed. It looks like you're at a beautiful lake, but I just want to say, for spectators actually being at the event, it's not, especially with the basketball indoors. We do have ways to live stream the event to parents. We actually are installing a camera through the National Federation of High School Networks right now, and they could watch every game, every home game live for free. And until that's installed, we were going to do the Facebook Live like we did for the volleyball games. So all parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles would be able to view the game. So actually, people in attendance obviously would be nice. We would love it. We'd love to be back to where we were, but people will still have access to watching their children.
I remember what I was going to say. Children who have chosen to be in cohort C, are they allowed to participate in sports?
Yes.
Okay. And then just in general, it's just interesting to me, you know, we're one of the districts that has stayed in person, but many of the districts, and I don't exactly know who's in our league or whatever, but, you know, down more in the southern part, you know, the Valley and Milford and places like that, they've been fully remote since Thanksgiving, and they're going back to school on Tuesday and then going to start sports. Like, I just have a really hard time fathoming how, you know, these districts are going to do that, and maybe they won't, but it's interesting to me. I'm just shocked that they're going to go through with it with our numbers still being the way they are, but that's just the healthcare worker in me that is exhausted and frustrated with life right now.
I think with all this and last year, the final decision came at the last minute. So I'm sure there's going to be additional questions over the next couple of days before the 19th. So we'll have more time to deal with this, I think, towards the end of the month. Any other questions or comments?
Okay, well, thank you, Brian. You're certainly welcome to stay on, but we don't expect you to do that. Okay, so the next topic I want to cover related to COVID is something that I understand our teachers and parents and others are looking for an update on. And again, it's my understanding that since we got back into school this fall, we've been doing these early release days on Wednesdays as a way to provide additional time for our teachers for professional learning, but also recognizing that a lot of what they're doing to support the in-school and in some cases concurrent in-school and remote learning is just a lot more challenging. And so it's been explained to me that this thing kind of had sunset dates throughout the fall and the winter, and the next one was the end of January. So I just wanted to share that, given the comments I made earlier about how impressed I was with what we're doing and what I see happening, and also what I've heard from staff about what it's really taking to pull off what we're doing, along with the UK variant and the vaccine timeline. I just think it's in our best interest to just continue this to the end of the school year. It's what our folks have been used to, and then revisit it for next school year. So that's certainly my position. Again, I've been here 8 days, so I don't claim to have had the history with this, but I've talked to our teacher unions and I've talked to some other groups, and I would just be very hesitant to do anything that would kind of undermine the efforts, the very challenging day-to-day efforts. Missy just said she's tired, and I think our teachers are too, just doing what we're doing. So I wanted to let you all know that was my position on that, and see if you all had any questions about that.
I think my grandkids really need the short day on Wednesday to catch up and figure out how to do things for the rest of the week.
It's particularly valuable for the teachers to really do parent contact time, individual meets with students who might be challenged by a distance environment. Yeah, I would stick with it for sure.
So I'm actually in the opposite. I think it's for parents that are choosing not to use the bus to avoid another contact. It's extremely difficult to be getting out of work every single Wednesday. And particularly in the middle school and the high school where they get out at like 11 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you can't even put in 3 hours of work if you start at 9 o'clock. And I'm hearing that from other parents. Unfortunately, I'm always the one that seems to be complaining about it. And I had brought this up to Dr. Serino and it didn't go anywhere. And I do respect the teachers and that they need time. It's putting a stress on the parents and them having to, figure out. And what I see at pickup sometimes is on Wednesday, a bunch of kids getting in one car that don't live together. And that's what we're trying to avoid. But that's what's happening in reality, is because not every parent has flexibility. Not every parent works from home. So I understand. I wish there was another option. And then the other thing that I know we had talked about, at least with Mr. Sadinsky at one point, is that, they're trying to fit 8 periods a day in the middle school and the high school, whereas the other days are more of a block schedule. And I just don't think they're getting a good amount of education on the Wednesdays in the middle school and high school. So if it's going to stay this way, then it maybe needs to be relooked at as to what they're doing on those days in the middle school and high school. Because I know the teachers had said that they really aren't able to do much in 25 minutes or whatever the allotted time is.
Thanks,
I,
Missy.
Thank you
I
for
will
that.
support, I just want to reiterate what Missy was saying. I do think it is very difficult especially for like our working parents. I think as we've adjusted as best we can, but I think it would be helpful, to have a fresh set of eyes on it, to look at it again, to know this is the right move. I mean, I honestly, like when she said it was going to stop in November, like after Thanksgiving, I was counting down the Wednesdays of how I was going to get out of work on time. And then it moved to the end of January. And I appreciate if you're going to do it, at least you're telling people now, so maybe they can figure out what to do until June. But it's a lot. And not, again, reiterating, not everyone works from home right now. A lot of people don't.
I
So-
agree with you, Missy and Christine. Like, I feel like we had talked originally that it was going to start to become more of a wellness day, and I'm not seeing that. It never became that, at least not for what I'm seeing with my kids. So I would say that I agree with you that if it's not going to become that for the teachers and the staff and the kids, that it really should probably be relooked at as to why we even have them anymore, because I'm not seeing the pros at all. Even on my kids are doing remote learning and I don't see the pros at all. They're just being slammed with extra work for the entire day. So I think that their Wednesdays are actually becoming more independent work because they're not seeing their teachers. So they're done at 11:30, but they also have like 6 hours of work now afterwards. So it's defeating the purpose.
And I 100% support our teachers. I think they're doing an amazing job. However, this is going to sound blunt, but some parents are seeing it as now they're getting paid for a half of a day when they're not teaching. And I know that they're, doing PD, and I know that they're planning, but that's just what the outside world of who aren't teachers are seeing.
Well, it's interesting because the feedback that I was getting initially was that Wednesday was a deal breaker for many teachers because the in-school time was so unprofitable and stressful for them. The quick class changes were horrible.
Victor, I think what's happening is I haven't talked as much with teachers, but on the student side, they're just getting slammed with the extra work to do on their own. So I don't see the benefit in that.
I think that what I'm hearing from you guys is that definitely a re-engineering project for Wednesday is in order. Fair? Is that okay, Missy?
So Doug, you've at least heard some comments. Maybe we can talk about it in a little more detail at some future time.
Yeah, I think so. I appreciate this input. And again, I think what is a little bit awkward for me was I was not involved at all in designing your complete COVID response model. And I view this as something that was part of it. And I also can't sit here and judge completely whether I think it's amazing or lousy or somewhere in between. I'm simply reflecting the feedback that I've received, and it is what has become normal at this point. So I think what I'm taking away is for sure to revisit what we're doing on Wednesdays, but also the hardship that it's presenting to families and to children. And so there's a bit of a maybe a different perspective on this depending on what role you play and where you are in all of this. Again, I would just go back to my big picture lens. I think it's very impressive to be in school 5 days a week, even if one of those days is shortened when many are not. And I think we need to consider that when we think about changing anything. So I'll take all this input in and get back to you in the next meeting on it. Okay, so the last one is policy 6156, and this is a board policy that's been around for a while. And again, I'm not saying I'm expert in all your policies, but it was brought to my attention by two of our principals, the principal at Brewster, Ms. Murray and Mr. Ford at Lyman. And under normal circumstances, there would be this choice window where my understanding is that families of rising kindergartners who were considering either school under the choice that the district allows would have the opportunity to come and visit the schools and talk to the principals, and there would be some significant time for families to really vet all of their options and understand them. And because that hasn't happened, what these principals have asked for, which I think is reasonable, is some extra time to really think through what the best way of engaging families in this really important choice is. So if it's acceptable to the board, I'd like to move that February 1 window back to the middle of March, give them a little bit more time to dig in with their staffs and really come out with something. It won't be the same as it was. If they can't visit the school, that is just a very different thing. But I think with the extra time, that would give the principals more time, but also give the families more time. And so I don't believe this requires a formal vote of the board, but I'd like to know that the board at least consents to this, since you are kind of waiving what is currently your own policy. Any objections to that from anyone?
Well,
Can you just reiterate? I'm sorry. Can you reiterate what you're asking of the schools?
Yeah, what the principals would like is to have some extra time with their teams to really rethink how they can engage parents in a more robust way, given that the only way they've ever done this in the past is through in-person visits, which now are not possible under our health and safety protocols. They're just asking for more time for themselves and more time for families. In talking to our staff here, we don't see any negative impacts on planning or budget by giving them essentially this extra 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, this arose, all started back when we had 2 programs, and which of course we don't have anymore. But nonetheless, there is still a choice, an option here. We have the authority to waive that policy, and in my opinion, as chairman of the policy committee, and anybody that has worked with me on that knows how seriously I take these policies. But I don't see any harm in this at all. I don't think there's another 45 days is going to make or break anything at this point. We live at desperate times. Sometimes we have to have desperate measures. So having said that, I would be delighted to come forward with a motion that we regarding policy 6156 to waive the February 1st deadline and move that to March 15th.
I'll second.
Can we vote on this if it's not on the agenda?
No,
What's that?
no,
Can we vote on this if it's not on the agenda?
no.
We've run into trouble before I was on the
Oh,
board. I just
All
want
right,
to
then
make
I'll
sure
tell you
before we
what,
do
let's,
this.
let me rephrase it. I move we amend the agenda to re-examine policy 6156.
Second, I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now I'll continue with the motion that that regarding policy 6156, that we waive the policy regarding the time limits from February 6th to March 15th.
Second.
So
Oh,
this-
oh. Andrew, you get to second that.
Any other, great. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I still just want to make sure that procedurally we're doing the right
Yeah.
thing because of the not noticing.
Yeah, I think.
I just want to make sure because we've had a lot of issues in the past about this, and it pushed down my throat and others in the past.
Yeah,
about
Well, we've done this,
Thursday
Andrew,
before.
we've done this before. This is not, this is certainly not new territory.
I believe, my belief is you can amend the agenda in order to discuss an issue. I still don't think, I don't think you're on solid ground voting on something that's discussed when you amend the agenda like that. From a procedural standpoint, that's my view.
I respectfully disagree, Bob, and I'll have a conversation tomorrow with, we can stop this tonight entirely, but I'll have a conversation with Tom Mooney tomorrow. I have a meeting with him tomorrow, and I can certainly run that by him.
So then let's get back to the actual topic. Is what Doug asking? We have policies, and then we have administrative policies and procedures that support those. Is the timing of the February 1st the administrative policy that is under the purview of the superintendent, or is it the base policy that's under the purview of the Board of Education?
Unfortunately, it's in the language of the policy itself. It doesn't say at the discretion of the superintendent. It says February 1st.
Okay. So then it would be required by the board. The other question I have is the timing, February 1st to March 15th. March 15th moves us well into the budgeting process. And I'm not sure what, if any, budget implications based on enrollment, based on parents' selections would have on that. I don't think it's huge, but I'm wondering if March 15th might be a little late and if March 1st might not be better. But you know, that still allows for 6 weeks from today if we were to approve it. But the other thing is we were to have a policy meeting next week where we could discuss this if we held a meeting, and we can still notice it because we can notice it tomorrow because I understand Meg's out on Friday. We could have a policy meeting and then a special meeting of the Board of Education if we want to move it forward. So I think we have other routes that we don't necessarily have to do it tonight. And I think calling a special meeting, it doesn't take very much, and it can be and as a special meeting, it can be a one item, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. That would be my view on it. So at this point, that's my extent of the discussion.
And Bob, I actually would support you. And there's another reason too, is I would say that we should really consider striking the language within the policy itself, because the language as it is now is not a choice about schools, it's about programs. Since we only have one program now, that policy doesn't fit with our current language. And so I think we need to reconcile what we have previously made a decision on and that particular policy statement. I would much rather it say a choice of school, because that's what parents are ultimately making at this point. It's not a choice of program. So I would be in favor too of having a short meeting at some point, shortly in the future to change this.
But aren't they still doing ID at Lyman? I mean, they're still multi-age classrooms. They're still doing
this year.
I'm sorry?
I don't think it will be after this year. It won't be a choice.
I don't think that was discussed.
We can move to have this at the policy committee and set up that was scheduled for the 20th. We could have a short policy meeting on the 20th. We have a retreat on the 27th. We could have a small business meeting prior to that, if you want to get it all done before the end of January.
Okay, and then one last point. Our our standard procedure for policies is to do an initial read at one board meeting, followed by a vote at the next meeting. And this obviously won't allow enough time for that. So I would ask that at the conclusion of the policy meeting that, or at this meeting, everyone anticipate your first read will be by email. We'll send a copy of whatever the policy was that was agreed to, so that we can have the actual discussion at the next one. That way, because we do have a standing procedure for adopting policies and modifying them. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, that may be true, Bob, but just to clarify, that's not a demand, that's a courtesy that we extend to the entire board.
I
And
understand
it's a
it's a courtesy,
but it's not a hard and fast rule.
which is why we can get away with just making people aware of it and making sure people treat the email as the first read, so that they understand that that will be the first read. There won't be a second after that.
Thank you, everybody. So we'll have a policy meeting on the 20th. You can amend the policy as Andrew indicated. Doug, I think you understand that we're in favor of doing this. So, but we'll get it done correctly.
Understood. And I apologize if my tactics on this were not helping us. It's
No apologies necessary.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I put it under the COVID section. I feel like, the policy may be sounds like maybe it isn't, but it was one of those where the policy never anticipated the circumstances we're currently under. So that's it for the COVID report.
Mr. Chairman, we still have a motion on the floor. And therefore, having heard the conversation, I will be willing to withdraw the motion if my second will.
I'll withdraw.
All right, thank you. The motion's withdrawn.
Should be noted that Meg did send an email canceling next Wednesday's policy meeting, so she'll need to reschedule something, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I'll check with her tomorrow. We'll get something probably at the same time in the same place.
All right, we also have meetings on the 21st, so there's this meeting that next day as well. Thank you, Doug. I'm sorry that COVID is taking up so much of our time and your time. I think it's going to be with us till the end of this year. The next item is committee reports. The first one is policy committee. Norm, Bob.
Yep, we have second read on our policy regarding retention of electronic records and information. We had, it seems like 6 weeks ago we talked about this, and maybe it was. Anyway, we've had a chance to read it. As you recall, this is a policy that's suggested by Shipman and Goodwin. And for the purpose of discussion, I move we approve the policy regarding retention of electronic records and information.
Have a second?
Second. Oh, okay. Sorry. Second.
If there are any questions, Ken is here Ken is our resident expert on electronic records and information. I know he, at the meeting a while back, he gave a great explanation, and he is willing to field any questions that anybody that has about this policy.
I do have some questions just regards to storage and what's the plan moving forward.
So the big change, as suggested by Shipman and Goodwin, is that we make it known that the email servers are not appropriate storage methods. So in accordance with the state guidelines, say you got an email about a grant, it still has to be saved in the appropriate timeline and just not living and breathing in the email server. Things can either be printed and stored in files, like the old days, or they can be saved as PDFs and stored in the server, but data methods or Google Drive are what we currently have. We have limited in storage or in-house capacity for storage because we've just kind of been moving away from it with Google. Most of these policies are driven from having in-house email servers where, you know, the more you save, the more you have to have storage capacity and servers and electricity and backups. And, you know, right now we're in Google and we currently are unlimited. However, they are starting to impose limits on that. They've done it to the business sector and the public sector in terms of like personal accounts. And we're just kind of just waiting for that to happen to education, and or they're going to start charging. And either way, it's going to cost. So the other reason why an email server is not the thing or the place to save it is because there's no way for the server or myself or anyone on my team to know the contents of everybody's mailbox. All the laws are written that is the recipient's responsibility to save everything appropriately. So that is the person who receives the email, not necessarily the receiving server. Part of it is, although you guys were planning to adopt it, I did make a suggestion to the policy committee that, because part of this was going to declare, I believe, a year to 2 years of retention in the email server before it's auto deleted. I had proposed that maybe that part goes into effect next, you know, start of next school year, so people have time to appropriately go through their email and save things that are required.
Any other questions, Andrew?
And this didn't I'm sorry, but I thought this had something to do with medical component as well, or am I completely off on that? This is just electronic storage otherwise.
Electronic everything. So it's not just emails. The email is a big part of it, basically declaring if it's an email, it can't live and breathe on the server forever because we're not going to keep it there forever. Electronic records could be stored in, you know, it could be medical information. It could be, you know, part of the educational record, could be part of special education, anything like that. Just if it's electronic, it's declaring how it is to be stored or disposed of appropriately, akin to paper.
And how are we storing, I guess is what I'm getting to, how are we storing currently medical information related to staff and students?
That would be best answered by Pam because those aren't directly in my control. I mean, they may be on the server, but it's nowhere that we've declared like this is where the medical information is going, other than what she might save in her own personal drives, Google Drive, or PowerSchool.
All right. I just ask because of the security differences with that type of storage versus something else, and that's why I was confused. I thought this had some component to do with that as well. But
there's probably language in there that mentions medical, but it's not solely about medical.
all right, thanks.
Ken, is there any requirements from a legal perspective if we were to be subpoenaed for all correspondence regarding a certain topic that, you know, we're obligated to maintain a certain number of years of emails?
There are, but they pertain to like the individual email. So yes, it goes by circumstances, and it is the responsibility of the recipient to do so. So again, they could be printed or saved as PDF and stored. Just the email server itself is not the location for those to live forever. Because there's no way to impose a regulation of, to read every email from a computing aspect or an algorithm that says, oh, this definitely pertains to HIPAA, keep it this amount of time, or this is a grant, do it this amount of time. If we were to use the email server as the end all be all for storage, we'd be running into a lot of issues in terms of recollection for e-discovery. And again, if we ever switched away from Google or Google imposes restrictions, it could be extremely expensive to pay for the excess storage, or we'd be at that time forced to start purging and putting a yearly limit in place.
I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in the getting a policy adopted for this, but it strikes me as something short of madness that correspondence might just disappear because somebody hasn't had time to go through everything and pull it out. And I would like to hear from a lawyer. I would like to hear from a lawyer that the institution is not responsible for producing records of its institutional business. I'm particularly concerned about the email accounts of administrators and of us, the board. But I would like to know that somebody can't request records from 10 years ago in an issue that's ongoing, or 5 years ago, and that it really is the individual responsibility of the person who sent an email when they're acting in the capacity as an agent of the organization, which is an important distinction.
Yeah, I mean, we got this from Shipman and Goodwin. The lawyer said we need to have this in place, and they were the ones who said, set your own yearly retention. Whether we're the ones who could decide whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4, and state public records clearly state that is the responsibility of the recipient.
So, Victor, this came from our lawyer, and has asked us to adopt it.
So what it amounts to is we're hanging everyone out to dry. People who've been working here and who have done business for the institution on the institution email are now being told that they have to go back, read everything, and for their own preservation, restore records for which they might be sued later. I don't like that. I mean, I just don't like that. And I would specifically ask the question of Shipman and Goodman, not in general what we are supposed to do, but to what extent are we exposing our people if they fail to preserve records? If it's really their responsibility, and is it really true that the institution has no responsibility to produce records for its business?
I mean, my understanding is that we're not responsible for producing the records. We just have to make sure they're saved in another method other than the email server.
And we're not.
I understand that's overwhelming for people, and that's why I'm saying, if you were to adopt it today, it's not something that should go in effect to tomorrow. We should have a date to start.
Ensuring that our records are preserved somewhere else. If we're requiring that other people that not the institution but individuals have to go through their records. I'm just saying, why don't we just take a big image of what we've got?
We have an image of what we have. What we're trying to do is get rid of some of it, right?
Well, what I understand is that the default is that everything will be gone that isn't preserved.
Yeah.
And I just sounds to me really dangerous, because everything will be gone. That stuff that needs to be preserved won't be. And you're asking each individual person to understand the rules about this.
Norm, do you want to
Victor,
among other things, Kath Veronese has 7 years worth of stuff. Are we expecting her to go back and pull out records for preservation?
I was just going to say, we have a number of employees that have left over the last several years, and I'm not sure how we're going to preserve information they may have attained.
My suggestion is Norm, can we have one of the Shipman people come and talk about this before we adopt the policy?
Sure, we could. That's not a problem, and I'm not convinced that time is of the essence on this one. Regardless, but we can have somebody come in and
answer your questions
about it. Well, and if we have at the next policy committee meeting, which apparently started from 0 and has gone to 60, have them come in at that point in time too for 15 or 20 minutes and see if we can schedule somebody from there.
All right, why don't we add that to the policy committee and see if we can get somebody from Shipman to come and talk about the impacts on the individual employee for not going through 7 years of emails.
And for us.
Yeah,
Right.
you know what,
Business
as I
for
listen to
us.
the conversation, I don't think there's an issue here that, those records, you save them. If you don't save them, and that's fine. They're just gonna get purged, and I can't believe for a minute that anyone is gonna come back and try to bite you in an exterior position. I don't think Shipman would have given this policy unless they had already considered that.
Yeah, well, let's let them tell us more precisely what it has an impact. We have lots of questions, so let's get them in here and just explain it.
Good.
You also have a motion on the floor. So because of that, we can either table it or I'll withdraw it. What's your pleasure, Mr. Chairman?
Why don't we withdraw it until the policy committee meets?
All right, I'll withdraw it if the second approves.
That was you, Victor, I think.
Okay, yes, I approve of withdrawing. I'll withdraw my second.
Thank you, everybody.
My batting average tonight isn't very good, so.
Sorry, Norm.
Sorry,
Blame it
no.
on the virus.
It's COVID. Next item is utilization committee meeting. I can.
I took notes, Bob, if you want.
I'd have the minutes as well, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't read the minutes, but I'll go through real quick, and then if I miss anything, maybe Kim can pipe in. And there's my cat. There you go. So in regards to corn, they had the boiler cleaned, and when they tried to fire the second boiler up, there was a glycol leak, and that ended up happening twice. And so what ended up happening is that they have now winterized that system, and they've drained it, which then means we have no fire alarm currently at Corn School. And the fire department is aware of that. To replace the boiler, I believe it would be about $7,200 per boiler, and there's two there right now. And then if you need to replace the pump, they're about $4,000 to $5,000 each. And if you need to replace the boiler, it would be between $20,000 and $25,000 each. And Laura Francis was at that meeting, and at this point, it does not sound like Durham can really commit to whether they're going to take that building from us or not. And then in regards to Lyman, everything is status quo. However, the chiller is beyond its life expectancy, and the boiler is 26 years old. And if that pump went, it would be between $18,000 and $20,000 to repair it or replace it. And if the chiller goes, that's $150,000 to $200,000.
That's basically what happened. And so this corn school is in cold storage until something happens, but there's really no more activity at the school right now. The town does have its voting equipment there. They've removed all the food and other stuff that's perishable that they have there for emergency response. And they need permission from Secretary of State to move the voting machines. So that's basically what we did at utilization, was just an update on the failure of the equipment in the buildings. Any comments?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I also recall that the insurance company was informed.
Yes.
That the building is no longer protected and is therefore officially proclaimed an abandoned building. Those words I remember. Is that right, Kim?
I didn't remember those words.
Vacant. The word is vacant building. Yes. And I did hear from the insurance company back, they were, we'll have to write us a separate policy going forward because vacant buildings have different kinds of things. And I was quoted $25,000 for that price for a year. So I went back and asked, what has it been? A portion of our policy has been attributed to corn going forward. So when I get that, I can judge how much more it is for a vacant building. But losses on a vacant building for theft and there's so many things that are simply not covered in a vacant building.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Next item is the building committee. Missy's our person on that. So Miss, you want to take over?
Yes, I wrote notes, and again, Kim, if I get something wrong, please let me know. So we talked about the culvert, and at this point, we're waiting to see if grant funding might be available. The last time that the culvert was inspected, which I believe was in the spring, they said it would last for at least another 2 years. Memorial needs some new heating, and I guess there's 2 different ways that they can do it, and Jimmy has spoken with them, and I think they're going to go with upgrading the unit to the vent rather than the air handling units that would be under the roof. So I think they're going to upgrade the actual system that's already there, and according to what they said, that would actually be better for COVID transmission. There is currently possibly grant money that is going to be available for HVAC repair under the COVID money. So we were going to wait to see if that happened. But I'm not sure if that's one of the things we're voting on tonight or not. No, we're voting on the roof replacement, not the heating. So I think we were going to get a little bit more information on that. And then there's a pump house that needs to be done in front of the high school and administrative buildings. And I guess currently it is underground, and they want to move it above ground. And that wouldn't be done until spring or summer of 2022. And the memorial roof is ready to file for a state grant. And I think that is something that we have to vote on tonight. And if the application is put in for February, then we would know by March, and then we can go out to bid. And if we went out to bid then hopefully it would get done over the summer. And we have funding for that already because it was through the bond that was 2 years ago. The vestibules, also we're voting on that tonight, and they're adding glazing and ballistic level 3 glass, and that's intended to be a summer project as well. That's all I had written down.
I think that's it. Kim, was there anything else? I think that covers everything.
Well, that covered it all.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the building committee?
The only other thing I wanted to say, Kim, is if we vote on these tonight, do we have to have the special number that she wanted in the actual vote?
So I have the project number for the vestibules already. The roof
Okay.
does not have a project number yet because you're voting to allow us to apply for a project. So we don't need the number for the roof.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Missy. Next item on the agenda is communications. I've had a couple. One is Danya Viola is asked to go over the contract for the superintendent and the contract for the administrators. I sent her that information. Nancy Earls from Cognitive Valley Education Fund has indicated she'd like our support eventually of the new parent pandemic playbook that they are preparing, and just would like to have the board be aware of that and support it as it comes forward in the next few weeks. I've also had a request from Representative John Michael Parker to meet with the board. I suggested that he could meet for a few minutes at our retreat and just get to know him and what his issues are and what our issues are. So he wanted to meet with Doug, and I think that's occurred, and would like to meet with the board on. And I thought the only thing we could really do is have him meet on the 27th, part of our retreat, and see if that will work out. He's amenable to that. And finally, we had a request from one of Tina Herbert, one of our teachers, about whether or not the board could provide transportation to 3 students that go to New Haven for the ACES program for arts. And I've asked Norm to look into whether or not that's something that we've done in the past or if ACES supports it. And I think it's, again, one of those things that probably has to be referred to the policy committee, because we have not provided transportation to those programs in the past. And it has a budget impact as well. So that's my communications. Any other communications? If not, Doug, back to you for the superintendent's report.
So first and foremost, Happy New Year, everyone. I don't know how it's been for you, but 2020 has been a very interesting year for me in a lot of ways. And I imagine 2021 will be interesting too. I want to say that, as I said to the 3 students earlier, it really is great to be here in District 13. Had the chance to visit all of our schools. Got to meet lots of people, young people, middle-aged, older, different perspectives. And really my focus right now is trying to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. And to that, I want to say that everybody, and I mean everybody, that I've encountered has been very welcoming and extremely helpful. And it is helping me get up to speed, and that's great. But of course, I'm looking forward to meeting even more people over the next several months. And as you all know, because I think we discussed it in the interview process, and it was in the video I put out last week as kind of a seed planting, what I'm trying to do is understand 3 things and understand it from multiple perspectives. What our district's strengths are, what our major challenges are, and maybe most importantly, get some insight into what people think the future direction of Regional School District 13 should be. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And Meg is helping me organize and schedule, and it's going to be a multiple month process, but I do feel like at the end of that time, not only will I be more informed, but I can come back to you and to the public with kind of what I've found. And I think that's an important part, not just for my transition into the district, but for the district moving forward. And it kind of serves 2 purposes for me. Not only do I get that information from people, but I also get to meet people. And it's very important, as being new, not just to the school district, but to this community, that I meet as many people as I can. So I want to let you know that that's going to continue. Now, I mentioned that one of the things that I want to focus on is what our challenges are. And people don't hold back about that, which is really good. And what I want to say to you all, because I know I've met with most of you also, just kind of how I feel about challenges in general, especially given that there are some significant ones that we're facing and that we're going to face in the next couple of months. So first and foremost, I believe that every challenge presents an opportunity. And I'm hoping that anytime we have a challenge, we're actively seeking those opportunities. I think that's really, really important. Second, I believe that we can face any challenge much more effectively when we work together. And I'm hoping that the teamwork that I've already seen on display in our schools can be sustained in the midst of any challenge that comes our way. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, I believe when we encounter a challenge, our response should always be rooted in its impact on the young learners that we have the honor of serving. Now, reasonable adults can disagree about what that impact is and what it should be. I'm not saying everyone's going to come to the same conclusion, but I have found that sometimes other factors do influence those decisions. And I just think if we keep pointing everything back to the children that we serve, we will come out with the best way to tackle challenges as they come our way. Let me say this in concluding. I don't have a lot of remarks tonight because I'm new and I really don't have a lot to say. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to serve here in the district, and I really look forward to the work that we can all accomplish together. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions for Doug? If not, Kim.
Thank you, Bob. We'll start tonight with MTA with our financials. We are 23% expended year to date and 38% with our revenue received. The general fund is 46% expended and 50% revenue received. So I just started looking back to previous years. You'll notice last month I reported this, and I'll do this going back, but looking at the prior year just to see if where we're running. And last December, our general fund was at 44% expenditure and 52 revenue, so almost right on target. So that just kind of gives me an idea of, and this year we had an unusual, we had a lot of expenditures for COVID that are being reimbursed from the coronavirus relief funds. And these expenditures incorporate that, they account for that. So our expenditures are actually a little bit less than they were, maybe around 200,000, but less than where we were last year. So I'm doing everything in my power to keep reserve funds that I can for a surplus at the end of the year so that we can use that to balance the budget. You know that we had used the surplus, much of the surplus from last year to balance the budget that we're in this year, which leaves us with an issue for the 21-22 year. So the most money we can preserve, that will help us better in our 21-22 preparation. So just keeping an eye on those numbers. Larger expenditures that we had during the month of December, we had 3 payrolls. The reason we had 3 was because our payroll hit January 1st, legal holidays, so we dated the checks for December 31st. So there was 3 there. We had also made our payment for the Memorial Playground. So those were just the larger expenditures that hit in the month of December. We did also we're doing a lot of talking about boilers and systems, and Brewster had a boiler go down. And Jimmy estimates a $5,000 to $7,000 repair. The good news about that, though, is now that both Brewster boilers have had to been repaired, they probably are in tip-top, hopefully, shape, and we won't be in this situation. They're not at the end of their life, so they just had some repairs that had to be done, and then we're hopeful that these repairs will last us many years. That will hit in January. We have not paid for that repair yet. Let's see. And then I spoke about the coronavirus relief funds. Year to date, we've received $215,000 that we use to reimburse ourselves for PPE, as well as some staff overtime, COVID liaison, our summer reopening groups, payment for that. So we will be able to submit a second request, and I'll be doing that during the month of January to get the remainder of the funds.
Kim?
Yes.
Hi. The $215,000, is that a contra expense or is that in revenue?
So our auditors want us to show that in revenue. So
Okay.
that's why our expenditures include those numbers. And I will point out whenever I do a report on that, that, technically that's money that could have been offset in the expenditures, but any kind of grant money needs to be listed as revenue.
Okay, so the first numbers you provided us on the percent revenue and the percent expenditure, the reason the revenues were higher was because that's where the reimbursement is showing up. And
Correct.
Okay, and when Middlefield reimburses for the courts, that will also go to revenue?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The capital reserve, we do have a new line in there for the memorial roof, provided, we pass the resolutions tonight to apply for the grant and we get approved. So we've had an inspection or 2 we had to have done. So we've incurred just a small amount of expenditures so far. So that's where we'll be tracking those expenditures on the capital reserve account. The roof is included in the $6.9 million bonding package from 2 years ago. And that is reimbursable at a rate of about 53%. It's whatever rate is in effect at the time you make the application and the application is approved. So we've been hovering between 53.5, 53.2, so somewhere in that neighborhood. Missy did a great job updating us on the building committee. We did talk a lot and actually made quite a bit of progress that meeting. We had presented the building committee with different options for the pump house and as well as the mechanicals at Memorial, the HVAC system. And as Missy noted, the HVAC system, we thought that we needed a little bit more time to have Silver Petrocelli research what kind of changes would exactly be included in HVAC upgrades and if it would make a significant difference or not. There were two options, one being that the mechanicals kind of stay in a tunnel that they're in now, and the other was to relocate them. And the cheaper of the two was to leave them where they are now. However, Jimmy had trouble getting in there to repair and whatnot. I guess the new system, all the controls are not in the tunnel, they'd be at the ends. So that his concern was alleviated. So the committee thought, yeah, that would probably be the best way to go. The little bit cheaper option, also better for COVID, but we're still kind of waiting on what kind of changes might be needed. If we're going to do this, we want to be up to date on our system. We don't want to put in a system that's out of date in a couple of months because there's new HVAC requirements. And then to that was, next was the pump house. Just quickly, the building committee did we had two locations. So we're bringing it above ground because right now it's corrosive where it is. We can't get people to go down in the hole to prepare it, to repair it. And then when the water line comes in, we won't be able to use our water tanks anymore at that pump house because the pressure's too high. So we're sort of forcing our hand to do this. So at this time, the building can either go above ground where it stands, which would be right near the parking lot for central office in the high school, right in front of the central buildings. Or we could move it over to the side and get it out of view, away from just a big solid building in the middle of the lawn. So the committee decided that probably was the best idea. Maybe a site visit would be a good idea. And, obviously relocating it was the more expensive option. The roof, we're going to talk about, hopefully pass the resolutions later. I have a short window of 10 days to apply for any kind of state grants. And the next one opens February 1st. So I have to have these resolutions ready to go, minutes approved and all that before I can even apply. If I don't get that in 10 days, it goes away and I have to do it again March. Then we're that much closer to not being able to get the work done this summer. I did want to mention one thing though, is that we have a safety plan. Every year we have to submit our safety plan and the safety plan has to be reviewed. And we've been after the state to please review our safety plan this year. And we've been told that they're backlogged. And that's one thing that could potentially hold us up from this project is the construction will not even accept our application if we don't have an approved safety plan. Safety plan's been submitted, it just has to be reviewed and approved. So we're daily calling and emailing and just kind of wondering, if we can get some sort of documentation saying it's under review or something so that we can proceed. And the security vestibules, we had a prep meeting with the state today where they went line by line of their checklist and everything they expect from us and how we can make it go smoothly. Essentially, people, students, teachers, parents will not really notice any aesthetic differences in the vestibules. In the entryways, they're going to look the same, except for they're just going to be hardened with the glaze. And then we're going to be putting those, I can't remember what it's called, but the electronic lobby guard systems in there that we have, but we are waiting for the vestibules to be done. So we hopefully that can be done. And I think that's a good reasonable estimate that'll be done this summer. The cafeteria, moving on to the cafeteria, the FEMA grant has been denied. The reason being that feeding programs are allowable to those infected, quarantined, or at risk of COVID-19. However, feeding economically disadvantaged citizens or maintaining food programs, even when ordered to do so, are not eligible. So I went back and forth with FEMA a couple of times, sent them the executive order from the governor, said we were, under order to employ our staff and pay them. but the answer came back was that the children did not meet the criteria. The amount of the grant that we were hoping to get was $76,000, which was 75% of our actual expenditures. So that leaves a hole for the food program. The general fund has been loaning the money to the food service to pay the payroll, to pay, right now we're serving free lunch for everyone. And actually the upside to that is we get reimbursed for the free lunch. It kind of maybe sometimes even a higher rate than what it's costing us. Very close. So we're running pretty much break even. So we're not at an disadvantage by offering free lunch at this point. We got into this hole when we offered the lunch, but we only had such small participation, it kind of ramped up, but we still had to pay our full staff. And that's where we ran aground with this hole of 80,000. So as I'm saying this, the general fund has been loaning the money to pay the payroll with the hopes that FEMA would come through and we'd be able to pay that off. That's not going to happen. So we can continue to keep it as a loan, or we can, set some kind of payback schedule, which in my opinion is going to be very difficult to do. Food service programs run as close to even as, a lot of them are in a deficit. We're very fortunate we run very close to even, but we'll never be able to make that up. It would be a very long time. Or we can say it's a cost of doing business during COVID. The board did make the recommendation and the decision that we did want to serve lunch to the students. We had to pay the staff anyways, and that we just charged that off to, food supplies and payroll as a general fund expenditure and relieve the food service from that deficit. You can think about it. That's a lot to put on. I don't need to know tonight, but that's just something that I'll circle back maybe next meeting and we can talk about if you have any questions. There are a few other districts that I know of, regional districts, who have been given the same answer that we were. So it's across the board, which is unfortunate because initially we were told that food service programs were appropriate. And the answer when I'd asked that question was, well, we were learning too. So it was all new information for everyone. We're going to move on to the ESSER funds. The states have been giving new amounts of ESSER funds. Connecticut is set to receive $492 million. The state is presently computing each district's share. If this follows the same kind of allocation that the last round of 111 million, it was followed on a Title I district formula. So we received $43,000. This is 4 times as much as the initial round. If it were to follow the same sort of allocation, we would get just shy of $200,000. That covers a lot of bases. Any kind of IDEA needs or McKinney-Vento homeless students. It's to help improve response with different entities, the public health entities. It's for individual school needs. It's for the unique needs of low-income, ELL, racial, foster care children. It is for technology, hardware, software, connectivity, including assistive or adaptive technology. It's to improve response, to being prepared for implementing procedures and systems. It's for professional development on sanitizing and mitigation. It's for PPE. It's for food and technology for online learning. It's for mental health services and supports. It supports summer learning. And it also maintains operation of school employment of existing staff. So I probably didn't need to read all that to you, but basically I wanted to say we have a lot of uses. 200 is going to go fast. I don't know if that's what we're going to get, but if we do, we can then prioritize where that goes to. But whether it be reimbursing us for things we already do, or if we decide to do something new with that. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Kim. It's a busy time. We have time now for new business, which brings us back to Kim. The first item 12A is the vote on the support staff agreement. This contract was negotiated with the paras and support staff and the secretaries that make up that union. We completed negotiations early December, and Kim, you want to go over the highlights?
Yes, so it was a 3-year agreement, a couple of different changes that were made. The premium contribution share for the insurance did rise 1% in year 1, 0% in year 2, and 0.5% in year 3. We always like to keep the forward momentum in the increase in the premium share each year whenever we negotiate the contracts. A big change in this group's insurance, which follows the teachers, was a post-deductible copay for prescriptions. That significantly reduces the premium for both the board and the employee. That will happen in year 2 of the contract, though, not year 1. So year 2 and 3 will include a prescription copay after the deductible is met. And talking about the deductibles, those also will increase in years 2 and 3. With that, anytime you make sort of changes like that in the plan design, it's a significant savings in that first year to all parties. The board HSA remains at the 50% of the deductible, but instead of having it say 50%, we gave it a dollar amount for future, deductibles go up, and 50% of more money is more money. So if we kept it at 1,000, 2,000, the deductible goes up, we're still at the 1,000 and 2,000. And so that was by design. We also were going to make the contribution in 2 deposits now, the first payroll in September and the first payroll in January. We had gotten into a situation where, we would give it all as the contract in the first paycheck in September, and then in October we have the staff that leaves and they've gotten the full year increments. And that also is people that come in later in the year. It'll be prorated. So we have those 2 payments. That's new. We have some clarification on language about openings, late openings, and early dismissals.
Kim,
and we also, yes.
Your audio is breaking up, and I would like to suggest that you turn the video off because your audio will probably come through more clearly.
Okay, is that better?
It's still breaking up, but I did hear all the words, I think.
All right, I'll make it quick. We increased the hourly rate from $17 to $18 for an extra duty, anything outside of the regular job. We did increase the maximum for covering for certified teaching staff from $30 to $40 a day. That was a maximum. Added 1 holiday to make them 5 holidays because we added Memorial Day. And the biggest piece was the GWI, the gross wage increase, and STEP was a total of 9.36 over 3 years. That will be offset by the large health insurance savings in year 2. When I say large, I will scale that somewhere around $50,000. The total increase over 3 years of the contract is $172,000. And then we'll see that $50,000 offset for health insurance. We have 33 step movements in year 2, so that's where our really big hitter was in year 2 of this contract. Any questions on that, or anything you want me to repeat?
How many employees again? I'm sorry.
We're running about, I want to say 25. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number. I did it at time. But it's our paras, it's our secretaries, both 10 and 12 months.
Mm-hmm. So on average, it's about $2,000 a year, less than $2,000 per year per employee. So thank you. Bob, you're on mute.
getting late. Any other comments on the wage? We need a motion to approve the contract. The union has already approved it.
So
To
moved.
approve.
And we have a second. I have two motions to approve. Second by Victor. Any other comments? All in favor of approving the,
It's creepy not seeing you.
yep. All in favor of approving the, to accept the support staff contract agreement for the years 2021 to 2024.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor, thank you. The next item is vote to approve the educational specs for the Middlefield Memorial School roof replacement. Norm, you have that motion?
Well, I don't have ed specs, as Missy pointed out, but I do have 3 resolutions for the Middlefield Memorial School roof replacement.
Right.
So if somebody else has ed specs, but like I say, I think Missy mentioned in her report that they weren't available.
It's the vestibules that I guess need the number.
Those I have.
Oh, okay. So I think Kim said that the replacement doesn't need a number.
No, no number.
Right, but he had said ed specs, so that's different than the number. You're actually going to approve the ed specs for the roof, which should have been, and I do believe were attached to the Board of Ed eval agenda. So there were ed specs for that.
They are.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The project number for the vestibules is a different thing.
The ed specs were attached to the items, to educational specifications for Middlefield Memorial School, project roof replacement, and there's 3 pages. And if you didn't read them, we need them read into the record. There they are.
Oh, there they are. Are we, Kim, are we reading the entire document?
Oh, well, you're
It's
approving
only,
them, so it would have been, prudent to read it had you seen it earlier. But we're not reading that as the part of the motion. We're just reading to approve those as the motion. But if you haven't read them, they've been vetted by Sue, Jimmy, myself, the architect, and hopefully the other board members that have read them, that we can still move that. Without this resolution, I can't apply for the grant.
So I think we are voting to approve as submitted, since it was already submitted to us.
Right.
And it sounds as if our back's against the wall and we better do it.
I would agree, Victor.
Well, I mean, I don't want to force you to do that, because all that will do is it'll push us out another year for the roof, because we probably won't be able to get it in. But I don't want to I don't want to force you to do anything, so.
Oh, no problem, but I will make the motion.
No pressure.
Those ed specs for the roof as submitted.
So, Kim, let me go back. Is that a resolution or just a motion?
So it's a resolution, and I really can't have it say as submitted, because the state provides specific wording for the motion. So if it's not word for word, they could kick it back to us.
You have the language, right, Dawn?
I do not. So that was not included with what was given to me by Meg.
So it would just be, I can, resolve to approve the educational specifications for Middlefield Memorial School. Really, that's the crux of that one.
All right, then let me try this and see how this floats. Motion to approve the resolution to approve the education specifications for the Middlefield Memorial School roof replacement.
Yeah, I think that'll do.
Do you need to put the date on it? December 29th, 2020? So this way it's a specific document?
No, because I don't believe so, because it's gonna come out of the minutes, and the minutes are dated.
I don't know.
I think the resolution should include a date.
I think
Be
so
it
too.
resolved that the Regional School District Board of Education has approved the specifications for the memorial, something like that, dated
December 29th, 2020.
Well, it would be tonight that we voted on
Oh,
it.
no, the specifications bear the date December 29th.
Right.
We need to tell
Oh.
what specifications we are.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yep.
Just before we go forward, Kim, did I hear the frightening words that not only do we need to approve this now, but the minutes have to be approved within the 10-day frame before you submit an application?
Correct. So that just means that we have to ask our friend Deb to get these right away, and then we will be looking for Norm to come in and certify them. A lot of paperwork gathering on the front end.
We don't know that the board does not have to approve the minutes of this meeting before that.
No, I do.
And what he has to, and then I do have to show the next meeting that they were approved. And I can do so right now with uploading a form that just says, you know, I can provide those at a later date. But I need to show the motions first, the resolutions.
Sure. Norm, do we have a specific motion before us now?
Yes, to approve the educational specifications, let me say the words, for the Middlefield Memorial School roof replacement.
Could we add dated December 29th?
I don't care if we date it. If that makes people feel better, that's fine. I don't think it's necessary, but.
Okay, I'll second that motion. It's been already.
All right, any other comments on it? The building committee did actually go over these ed specs as well, so. Any other comments? If not,
I'm fine. I just want to make sure I understand the wording to make sure the wording meets the requirements that Kim said. Otherwise, this will just get booted back to us and we lose a year.
I think the wording is okay on this one.
So what exactly is the wording that we agreed to?
that we have resolved to approve the educational specs for Middlefield Memorial School dated December 29th, 2020.
Okay.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Kim, you had 3 other resolutions on this you needed.
Yes, correct. And those, I think Norm has those.
I do have those.
Okay. These 3 are, again, the word for word motions for the state. Essentially, it's giving the superintendent permission to apply for the grant. It's also establishing that this project is going to be managed under the building committee, which we have existence already. And the third one is that you will authorize the preparation of schematic drawings separate from ed specs. Now these are the actual drawings. So those 3 have to be done word for word.
This is item 12C. Norm, do you want to read those resolutions?
Yes, and there are 3 of them, and it would be my suggestion that we vote on 3 of them separately. First one is to approve the resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education of Regional School District 13 authorizes the Regional School District 13 Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for the roof replacement project at Middlefield Memorial School.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Second, go ahead, Norm.
Next resolution that move that we approve the next resolution, and the wording is resolved that a regional school district building committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the roof replacement project at Middlefield Memorial School.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes.
And
The
the
next-
third resolution, that that we need to approve, and the wording is as follows. Resolved that the Board of Education of Regional School District 13 hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the roof replacement project at Middlefield Memorial School.
Second.
Thank you. Any comment? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item D, vote to approve security vegetables at Strong Middle School.
So this
I move
one
to-
is two motions. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. You
I was
want to?
just going to explain it. We
Oh,
have
okay, go
had,
ahead.
we have been through all the motions and all the specs and all that. We had the final drawings and cost estimates, and the board, we ran this to the building committee, and then the board just needs to make a final vote on these.
Go ahead, Norm.
I move to approve the drawing specifications and cost estimates for the State Construction Grant Project 213-0047A, security vestibules at Strong Middle School.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Discussion. Discussion.
Sure.
I just a quick. What is the total cost we're approving?
I don't have the exact numbers. It's just over 100,000 for Strong, and it's about 93,000 at Coginchug.
And then there's about a 53% reimbursement from the state.
Well, yes, that is, and the money that the board had to put up for it has already been reserved in the security funds that the board appropriated a couple years ago, that 400,000. So there's no borrowing, there's no bonding.
Okay, and I'm aware of that. My other question is, does this, because I know we had approved 400,000, does this $193,000 expenditure complete, is that the complete contemplation of the job, or is there additional work that is going to be done on the vestibules ultimately, or like, is this complete for the vestibule security or not?
Oh, yes, it is. That would complete. Now, that wouldn't do anything for surrounding windows or anything like that. That's just the vestibule.
Right, that we originally appropriated the 400,000 for the vestibules and the surrounding area. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item E, vestibules, security vestibules at Coginchug Regional High School. Norm.
Move to approve the drawing specifications and cost estimates for the State Construction Grant Project number 213-0048A, security vestibules at Coginchug Regional High School.
Second.
Any other comments?
Same questions. I have the same questions about this project, the total cost, and is this complete?
Yeah, yes. Same for both schools. These schools were chosen too because they were the least amount of work in order to get these vestibules put in and to sort of try it and see how we liked it before we went to the other schools.
Yeah, so Coginchug was how much? Oh, that, I'm sorry.
No, actually, I do have it right here. Coginchug was 93,850.
Right.
And
Okay.
Strong is 100,450.
Okay, 450. All right. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. The next item is a vote to approve the 2021 Board of Education and committee meeting schedules. You'll notice on the committee meeting schedule we have from 2 years ago, we had tried to move some of the committee meetings to different schools. I don't know if that's possible again, even next year. So we're proving these as, at least on the committee meetings, as tentative in terms of location. Any other comments on the district calendar, the Board of Education committee measures calendar?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Again, these are subject to a change as we have always done. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any comments? Thank you. The next is the 2021-2022 district calendar. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Missy, you had a comment?
I do, and I'm sure that Doug probably didn't make this calendar, so he might not be able to answer me, but just, again, I feel like I'm complaining tonight, but speaking as a working parent, there currently is a PD day scheduled for the Monday after the Durham Fair. And while I'm sure the children would love to be off the Monday after the Durham Fair, it is not easy for parents to get that much time off necessarily all at once. So I know we probably don't have much say, and I also don't understand why we even vote on this if we don't have a say in it. But that's my piece.
I think the most important is when the school ends is the date we have to actually approve. But I did talk to Corey about why that was on there. And she said the teachers who, especially in the lower grades, the kids come in after the fair and they're not productive. They're still either beat or wound up, and they aren't able to really manage anything that first day back from the fair. And they were pleading with her to have a PD day at that time so they could be more productive. And that was their, her issue on that PD day.
So we have no idea. I mean, we're hopeful, but we have no idea if this fair is actually going to happen. So
no, we don't.
If it doesn't, then this could be something that could be amended, I'm assuming.
Sure.
Okay.
I think we can amend it. I think the only thing that's really important for us is the start and end date of the school. And those are the two things that are the most important to make sure we have our full schedule. Doug,
what is the start date? I don't have the schedule pulled up.
It's September
1st for the students, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
The teachers start on the 27th of August.
the last day of school is June 15th.
Do we have a motion to approve this?
We did have a motion
Yeah,
to approve in a second. We were just going into comments. I did raise your issue with Corey, and she will think further about it and talk with Doug about it as well. If there's no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was just gonna say, as someone who's taught here for 10 years, I agree with it. Just to let you know, I mean, the Monday coming back from the Durham Fair is just almost like you can't even get much done at all. So it probably would be more worthwhile.
Not to mention how many teachers volunteer over those 4 days. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not only the kids that are impaired.
It's all
Are
of
you
us.
just kicking the unproductive day one day down the week?
Maybe. So we're back to the vote. We had more comments. All in favor of the school calendar, district calendar? Aye. Thank you. Any opposed?
I abstain.
Thank you. The next item is the board tentative retreat date for January 27th, 2021. Would be probably in the evening. It's a Wednesday. Any comments on that?
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, Bob, you kind of broke up a little, at least on my end. What What was,
The tentative date for a board retreat? It'd be, normally we've had these in January. This is an opportunity for Doug to talk about some of his short-term goals for the rest of the year and for us to get a kind of the priorities for our budget. And we also have a guest of Senate Representative John Michael Parker, who would want to spend a few minutes with us and to get to know the board a little bit.
okay,
Those would be the three basic agenda items for the board retreat.
okay.
What time are we doing this?
What time would you like? 9 o'clock?
Well,
8
no,
o'clock?
but
7
how, well, I
At
mean,
9
here's
a.m.
the
would be
thing.
fine.
Here's the thing, again, Missy being the complainer. We voted last year to have it on Saturday, the 23rd. So it's been on my calendar for Saturday, the 23rd. And then all of a sudden we get this agenda and now it's moved to the 27th. So I just don't understand who makes those decisions. And it's fine as long as it's virtual. I'll have to call in. I don't get home, until usually about 5:45 on Wednesdays from activities. So whatever you want, but
I think Meg did a poll, and that's the date that came out.
I never got a poll,
Oh, okay. I'm
and
sorry.
neither did Andrew because I asked him. So I don't understand where these things are all of a sudden being changed without asking everyone. And again, I'm not trying to be like a jerk, but at the same time, we vote on these things. I put them in my calendar. I work my life around them, and then they change. And I'm not saying I'm more important than anyone else, but it's just, we got things going on.
That's why it's on the
So
agenda.
if it's going to be 3 hours or 4 hours, then I do want to start it at 5 o'clock. But if it's going to be not that long, then we can start it later.
Any other comments about when to have it?
I will say if
Just about, it probably needs to be long. I think there's a lot to discuss, so.
if we're going to move it, we should change the time that's in the school calendar too, in our Google Calendar that's loaded into our iPhones. It's still listed for the 23rd.
Do you want to do it on the 23rd?
I will certainly be less tired if it's during the day than I am at night.
Doug, I mean, this for you is.
Yeah, well, when we talked about it, I think certainly I'm available either day. I've got both dates marked out on my calendar. I think the thought was that because we can't get together, that even if you need more time, you kind of get Zoom fatigue, and it just might not be what it had been historically. So certainly I'll Kim and I will be ready, whether it's that Saturday morning or whether it's that Wednesday evening. So whatever your pleasure is, we're fine with it.
I prefer a Wednesday evening to a Saturday morning, particularly during ski season. But that's personal.
Whatever we decide in terms of whichever day, I would just ask that, because that is usually a very lengthy meeting, that we have an agenda with time restrictions on each one, so we don't talk in tangents forever and actually get something accomplished. And I will hold us to the time.
That's usually Missy's job.
Missy, I'm happy to pass the baton back.
No, you can do it. I've complained enough tonight. Go ahead.
Well, at least now we have backup.
Would you want to make that baton a baseball bat instead?
You want to, just you can cut off the Zoom. Again, do we have a preference for the 23rd or the 27th?
I'm not saying anything because I'm available either time. So it's up to those people who have issues or whatever. So, I'm okay with either date.
I can feel the either date also.
I prefer the 27th.
I would prefer the 23rd. I mean, I actually can't make it to the 27th. So now that I look, I have to
Norm?
that day.
Norm?
I prefer the 27th myself. Yes,
Jamie,
27th, yes. I'm sorry.
Jamie,
Either is fine. 27th perhaps would be better though.
Lucy, either one?
I'm okay with either one. I do prefer the Saturday mornings better than at night, but it doesn't really matter. I don't have a preference.
Bob?
Oh, I said I preferred the 27th.
Victor?
I
Victor?
prefer the 23rd if there's anybody who cannot make the 27th, which is Andrew, I think.
Missy, the 23rd?
I could do either. I'm just saying, I just want a little up.
Okay.
I don't know. If there was a poll, I think everyone should have gotten it. That's where I'm at. And again, I can do either. If it starts at 5, I will call in until I get home.
Christine?
I would prefer the Wednesday if it's an option. Because I would prefer to have a weekend day back, and I have my kids that weekend, so it's a little tough. So if I had a choice, I'd choose the Wednesday.
Maura? Maura?
I could be flexible either day.
I'd just like to point out that in choosing Wednesday, we are choosing not to include Andrew.
I appreciate that you're supporting me, Victor.
I appreciate that, but I may not be able to make Saturday because we have obligations.
But this has been on the agenda since last year, this time when we voted on it.
I know.
I'm just saying, like,
Yep.
how are we going to
Okay.
then choose one person over the other? That's where I'm at.
If I could jump in here, if we could find a third date that works for everybody, and would that be preferable? Selfishly, I would say this being my first retreat and wanting to go over some things, my preference would be to have every board member participating, but that's just my input.
So back to Bob, who is concerned that he may not make the 23rd. I take it that's because it's a weekend, and that would apply to any other weekend?
Not necessarily. So I need to check my calendar. I prefer a weeknight though, in general. Weekends are few and far between. Personally.
It sounds like more people would rather have it on the evening, but the Saturday the 23rd seems like it's about even from people. So should we just take a vote there, or just go to the 23rd?
Well, should we consider another date?
I agree with the third date. I do think it's kind of important for us all to be there.
Yeah.
If we could be.
Yeah, my strong preference is to be there. I mean, I think these have historically in the past been, although maybe lengthy, they have been fruitful, and I think we have some major issues, like from a budgetary stuff, things to discuss, and I think that is a lot of times where we've hammered some of this stuff out in the past. So if there was one meeting that I would say that I want to be at, it would be this meeting, because I think it has the most weight out of all meetings in the year.
What are you available, Andrew? When are you available, Andrew?
Let me see. As long as I don't have a shift, I'm looking for the days around that. I would be available even on that Thursday that would be the 28th.
Was it 28th with everybody?
I'm just not sure if there's a student achievement meeting, but I can't, because the dates have been moving on that one. So
no Thursdays.
I can tell you more. Hold on.
How about another date, Andrew? How about
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday?
I can do, let's see, hold on. I'm trying not to.
Is it easier to just maybe send out a poll tomorrow?
Could have Meg do that, like a doodle poll with a few different dates, and we can do that if it serves,
Yeah, but we have to have some possible dates. You can't do a doodle poll with a blank page.
Yeah, I'm available also that first or the second, or the third. So these are all evenings, or even the fourth. So most of all that next week.
The first is
Monday.
Monday?
Yeah, that's a Monday.
How's that with everybody?
I teach on Monday.
How's the second?
Looks good.
I'm good on the second.
Fine with me.
I'm good on the second too, now that the Groundhog Day celebration should be over by then.
All right, how about we make a motion that the board retreat be February 2nd, starting around 5 o'clock?
And could we set an end time at the same time?
You can.
No, I think Christine's idea is great.
3 hours?
Yeah.
That's about all any of us could take.
I have a well-being committee meeting written down on that second, but it's at 4 o'clock. So we're looking at 5 for this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jamie. I was just going to bring that up.
So I think for our own well-being, we should make that a short meeting.
We can move it earlier too. We can make it at 3:30 or so more to get it over with quicker. All right, all those in favor of the.
Wait a minute, we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, for board retreat.
That, once again, I'll be glad to withdraw.
What was the motion?
It was attached with the date, so that's.
So my batting average is around .500, so.
Well, let's make it 0, Norm.
What? No, just change the dates in your motion.
All right, I will, if everybody is agreeable, change the date to February 2nd. Beginning at 5 o'clock.
Although you have a second.
Doug, is that good for you? We need you. Doug and Kim, yes?
Yes, we're good. We would have chimed in if it wasn't good for us. Right,
Yeah,
Kim?
it's good for me. Yep, absolutely.
Thanks everybody
All right.
for accommodating. I appreciate it.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. The next item, and looks like the last, is vote to approve a community member to well-being committee. Juan Stefan has asked to join the committee. Most of you know Juan. She's a longtime parent volunteer, Regional 13. She has 4 children, 2 have graduated. She's involved in the leadership of the PTOs at Brewster Memorial and Strong and Paper House Productions. She's currently executive boards for Strong School PTO as well as the POPS organization. She has a PhD in pharmacology, 15 years in the pharmacology industry. She's director of medical writers in the areas of anti-infectives, internal medicine, immunology, cellular therapy, and pediatric medicines. So she would like to join our well-being committee. And I would like to make a motion to accept her.
Second. I would like to second that.
Any other comments? Thank you. All in favor of appointing Juan Stefan to the well-being committee?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next item is public comment. Ken, we got anybody out there?
So we have one caller. The last 4 digits are 6384. Go ahead, please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. This is Juan Stefan from Durham. Thank you to the board for accepting me onto the the Wellness Committee. I look forward to working with everyone to ensure the physical as well as mental health of our staff and students, especially during this very unique year. I also want to add my welcome to Doug. I actually have a very specific, I was asked to share something very specifically from some sixth graders in Mrs. Barris's class at Strong, that they, and I quote, really hope you come visit soon because it would be cool and important to meet the leader of our schools. So that's a message from some sixth graders at Strong.
Okay.
And regarding the discussion about the hockey to commence, I am in a rink probably 3 to 4 times a week at Newington and as well as Cromwell, and sometimes in West Hartford as well. I can, based on observation and also discussion with the rink staff, there's really no evidence of the rink surface environment being a factor in this. I really truly believe, and they agree, that it is compliance with everything that Brian was talking about, mask, mostly off the ice, because we do not see any type of transmission. We haven't had any cases with our figure skaters, and there are sometimes 15 to 20 skaters on the ice at a time. So it's really compliance of all these risk mitigation strategies off the ice, and also limiting, spectators in the rink. We've been shut down for a few cycles now where they've shut down hockey altogether and limited the number of figure skaters to 4 on the ice. But again, there's been no cases among the figure skaters or any evidence of any danger to our figure skaters who are on the ice with masks on. It's really off the ice. Newington itself has even separated the entrances where the hockey players come in versus the ice skaters. So I think it can be successfully done, as we've done with other sports in the district. I completely agree with Missy about the inconvenience of Wednesday early pickup. I'm often on meetings sitting in the car in the parking lot, but I really do feel that continuing on with the Wednesday early dismissal is important to the well-being of our students. We've taken advantage of these early dismissals for just to have the girls reset and take the time to either catch up on their sleep or just to relax, take off the mask, be outside during the daytime hours, especially during these cold winter months. Perhaps the board could consider and school could consider pushing back the hour of dismissal so that it's a little later, so that maybe it could align with lunch hours for the working parents. Maybe that might make it easier as well. But just something to consider. But I do feel that it's been an important factor in the well-being of our students during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan.
Juan, thank you for volunteering to work with our committee. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I should note that Dr. Shuck has been spotted at Strong last Wednesday. I can vouch for that for my children. So.
I heard he was spotted at Memorial as well.
I don't know. They've been waiting in Kim Barris's class, and they keep reporting back that they haven't seen Dr. Shook. So that's I was just told to comment.
Perhaps we need a website, a spotting report website or a Facebook page.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's time for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And we'll see you on February 2nd.
I second.
All in favor, adjourning.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody. I'll see you on the 2nd.
Good night.
Hey.
Night.